Make sure you stick around until the end to see how you can win free gear and products. Hey, this is PJ with CLKsupplies. Have you ever wondered why there's so many different key blank part numbers out there, so many different materials and finishes? It's hard to know what you need, where to start, and really what's going on. Well, the good news is we're gonna cover it all in this video. Now, before we get going here, I really want to make sure that if you haven't already, you're going to want to watch part 1, okay? If you go in the notes below, you'll find a link and you can watch it. And as a matter of fact, when I was getting ready to record all of this information I'm going to be going over now, I was like, you know what? This is kind of like weird because there's still a lot of information that I'm leaving out that if you're not too familiar about the history of key blanks and key blank manufacturers and part numbers, then it still might be just a little confusing, okay? So make sure you watch that. Now, before we get going into the part numbers, I think the number one first thing that we need to talk about is key blank finishes. So when it comes to key blank finishes, these are the 4 finishes that are for the most part what's out there, and there's a lot kind of to them that I'll get into as we go here. So let's just start going over them together here. Now, is what you're going to see here are these initials that are always used. A lot of times you'll see them at the end of a key or on a key blank box. You'll see the key blank number followed by these initials here. So the first one is going to be brass, and that's just going to be BR. The next one is going to be NP. That stands for nickel plated brass, okay? So the key is actually brass, and then they put a nickel plate on it, which is that silver color, right? Next is gonna be NS, and that's gonna be for nickel silver. And last, not too common, but you'll see it here and there, is going to be ST, and that's going to stand for steel. Now, the tricky thing about the steel keys a lot of times is it's actually steel, but it's nickel plated on top of it, okay? So it looks essentially identical to a NP, a nickel plated key. And so that's something you always want to kind of keep in mind when you're looking at the actual box the keys come in. You really want to be looking, or the bag, I should say, you want to be really looking for that ST for steel. Now, the interesting thing about this, okay, and why it matters as we get into the next part here, is that the pricing actually follows this same pattern. So the BR keys, the brass, that don't have any nickel plate on them, so they're gonna have like the gold color, the brass color, they're gonna be the least expensive. And then when you go next to the nickel plate, which is the nickel plated brass key, that's going to be a little bit more expensive. And then when you get into the nickel silver, that's going to be even more expensive. Another interesting thing about this is the strength and durability actually follow that same pattern, right? So the brass essentially is going to be the weakest. The nickel plated brass is going to be, kind of like the middle of the road. It's going to be brass, but it has that nickel plated finish on it for to help it wear well. And then third is going to be here that nickel silver. So that's going to be a much stronger material, and we'll get into that a little bit more here in a minute. So really is what you really want to know is that what these each stand for: brass, nickel plate, nickel silver. Also, the pricing when you're looking at buying a key, the cheapest one is just going to be the brass key, and the most expensive one is going to be the nickel silver key, okay, with the nickel plate right here in the middle. And then that's also going to go in line also with the durability, the strength, the overall strength. The brass is essentially going to be the weakest, although, I mean, the brass really isn't really weak, right? I mean, how many KW1 keys have you had that are brass that work perfectly fine, right? But essentially, the brass is going to be the weakest, and the nickel-plated brass, and then the most strong, the toughest key is going to be that nickel silver. All right, now that we're on the same page when it comes to the key blank finishes and the materials used, it's really going to bring us to this next part here. And this next part, we're going to really dive in on 2 key blank manufacturers, ILCO and JMA, because on the surface it seems like there's only one KW1 key out there or one NA14 key, but in reality there's all sorts of different versions of it, and it can get a little complicated, and the names they use at first glance don't really make sense. But if you've watched the part 1 of this video, which you can watch in the notes below, there'll be a link to it. It'll help really shed some light on all of this kind of information and how it's kind of used. All right, now when it comes to the actual key blank manufacturer's product lines, all right, I want to give you a quick rundown of the most popular lines that they have. And it's really going to come together here in just a minute, okay? But when it comes to Ilko, they have their Easy line, their Tailor line, and just their Ilko line. Now, when it comes to this, okay, I just want to give you a high level here. And essentially, Easy line, for the most part, if there's an easy number attached to it, it's going to be a more popular key for sure, okay? Otherwise, essentially, it's just going to have like just a Ilko part number. Next is going to be Ilko's Tailor line. Now, if you watched part 1, you know that Tailor is actually the name of another manufacturer that Ilko had purchased. And essentially, the Tailor line is really geared towards more hardware distribution, okay? What you're going to find at, a hardware store. Okay, and so they're really popular keys. You're going to find that they're primarily just brass keys. And there's only so many of them. Okay, because they're meant to go into like a more hardware store style distribution. However, we use the same terms as a lot of the Tailor lines anyway. So, and that'll be apparent here in just a minute. Next is just the Ilko line. Okay, and the Ilko line, that's just going to be just their standard numbers, their standard line. And then there's the lookalike line. Okay, so that's when they're making a Schlage key to look identical to a Schlage key without its logo, or a best key, a SFIC key, to look practically identical to the original best key, that sort of thing. Now, when we get down here into JMA, we're looking at their quick blanks, their JMA keys, and their Pro line. Okay, now this is where the similarities are going to start. Okay, now so you have to understand that both of these manufacturers here, all three of them here, right? They're of course they're competitors. Right, and of course here at CLKsupplies we actually sell them all, right? So my intention here is just to really give you the most true information I can, okay? And essentially is what's going on here is the Easy line, okay, and the JMA Quick Blanks line are essentially the same keys as far as like part numbers go, materials go, all of that sort of thing, okay? So pretty much everything I said about the Easy line applies to the Quick Blanks line as well. So you're going to see a lot of keys available in brass. You're also going to see some also available in nickel plate. For example, a lot of the automotive keys come standard as nickel plate, and a lot of the cylinder keys are going to come standard as brass, right, BR. Next, we have their JMA line. Okay, that JMA line is just going to be similar to just, the keys, their own part numbering system. And then next is going to be JMA's Pro line. Okay, now the Pro line is very similar. It's the same thing as the lookalike line. Okay, so they're going to be, they're going to make a Schlage key out of the same material as Schlage and make it look similar to Schlage. Same with Best. It's that same sort of thing. So essentially, and then we go down here to Jet, okay, and we're going to see the Jet key blank numbers, which are essentially just the standard key blank numbers out there, okay, and then finally, you're going to see the Silver line. Now, the Silver line is essentially, once again, it's going to be the same thing as the lookalike line and the Pro line, okay? So as you can see, like, there's different categories of how manufacturers are making the keys, and then they're all setting up their own lines to kind of compete against. But now that you have this basic information here, let's go over a couple key blanks together, and I really want to put this all together for you. All right, now the first key I want to talk about is the mailbox key NA12, okay? And that's kind of a common term that all of us know. But when we look at it, and I kind of filled it all out here, the Easy line through Ilko is going to be a NA12-NP, right? So it's going to have a nickel-plated finish on it. The Tailor is going to be a NA12-BR, so it's just going to be the brass. And the Ilko part number is going to be a 1069 LB-NP. All right, now, so based off the information you already know, if I were to ask out of these three keys, which one is going to be the least expensive, which one would you guess? Well, if you guessed NA12-BR, the Tailor key, you would be right, because since it's just a brass finish, okay, it's going to be the least expensive. Now, a couple little quick facts about this, okay. The Taylor line, ILCO sells them in boxes of 50. There's even some 250 options available, but they're not bagged per 10, okay? There's a loose 50 in a pack. The Easy line actually comes in a box of 50, but they're bagged in 10s, and then same with the ILCO ones as well, okay? So, and a lot of times is what you'll actually see on the ILCO key is it will actually say, like if you were to buy the ILCO key, it's gonna say 1069 LB, and it's gonna have NA12. It's gonna have both part numbers on it. They call it the dual, the Easy Line dual numbering system. So that's kind of what you're gonna see there. Now, when we go down to JMA, we look at the quick blank part number. That's gonna be a NA12-BR. The JMA part number is the NTR-2D NP, okay? So that's a little more complicated when it comes to that. But once again, if we were to look at these two keys, which one would you guess is gonna be cheaper? Well, it's going to be the NA12-BR, right? Because it's just the brass finish. We come down to Jet here, and that part number is actually a NA12-BR. Now, once again, right, so the big thing that I'm trying to convey here is how manufacturers get these key blank part numbers set up to compete against each other, how to be able to spot which one's the least expensive and how all that works. And on top of it, if you remember the history from part 1 of these two videos here, is that ILCO essentially names the key. Okay, everyone kind of follows ILCO's lead when it comes to the key blank naming. At least that's my perspective. Now let's go ahead and do one more key. All right, so the next key I want to go over is a very popular automotive key by Toyota. It's the TR-47. Now, when we look at all of them, I have them all written up here, you're going to find a few things interesting, okay? So the Easy line is actually going to be a TR-47-NS, so it's going to be nickel silver, okay? Next, it's the Taylor key is a TR-47-NP, and then the ILCO number is just the TR-47- NP. Now, I actually wrote these parentheses wrong up here. A lot of times we'll know this key as the X217, right? And that's the Taylor number, is that X217. So that goes all the way back from when ILCO purchased Taylor many years ago, and that's where that's actually coming from, that Taylor line, that X217. Okay, so ILCO will have it listed in the book kind of both ways. And then further down here, you can see the ILCO TR-47-NP, right? So once again, if we think about, okay, which one here is going to be the most expensive key out of these? It's going to be the nickel silver key, right? Just that basic one. So that's sometimes, you know, when people call us up and they're trying to buy a key blank, and they're looking for a certain brand or this or that, and they're like, why is that so much more than a different one? Well, a lot of times it's because of the finish, right? That's why. Next, we go down here to JMA, and we look at the quick blanks part number. Okay, so JMA is going to use the TR-47, okay, -NP. It's going to be a nickel-plated key. But they also, I really want to write this down here. They also use their part number, which is the TOYO-15E. Okay, so anytime you see a JMA key that has an E at the end of it on the part number, that means it's the quick blank number. Okay, so it's going to be the least expensive line that JMA sells. Next, we go just the JMA root of the part number here is going to be just the TOYO-15. And then their Pro line version, their kind of look-alike version, okay, is going to be the TOYO-15S, okay, and that S stands for similar. So when you're looking at a JMA part number and you see the E at the end, you know that's going to be the least expensive version. It's going to be a very popular key. When you start looking at the S at the end, well, that's going to be the similar version, okay? And we go down here to Jet, and we see the part number is a TR-47-NP. So once you have it, you know, once again, there we have it, right? Whoever knew there's so many different variations when it comes to just a simple key, but there's a lot, okay? And taking this information and understanding it and using it is going to help you really navigate through a lot of the random little problems and questions that you have, and it can also help you order the keys the way you want to receive them. So I really hope you find this information helpful, and I really want to give a quick shout out to JMA and also Ilko for taking some time on the phone with me, answering a couple extra questions that I had. I hope I did you guys both justice with what I put up here. All right, so there you have it. Pretty much everything that I think you need to know about key blank part numbers and materials and the manufacturers, really all of that kind of bundled up into, you know, this one video here. Now, of course, right, as you know, I like to use the 80-20 principle, and so I'm really trying to give you the 20% of the information that's 80% of what I believe that you should know, really the stuff you'll use on a day-to-day basis. I'd love to hear some feedback in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Daylight savings is an agenda pushed by Big Golf to keep golf courses open.
All right, man. All right, so the next key I want to go over. Okay. All right. Nope. Well, we got the phone ringing here. What do we got cooking? Hello.
Hey, this is BJ. Have you ever wondered why there's so many different key blank part numbers out there?
Oh yeah, who's calling?
This is BJ with CLKsupplies. Because we're gonna cover it all in this video.
All right, thanks. Bye. All right, now, so the first key I want to go over is going to be a mailbox key, the NA12. It's a really popular mailbox key. And, oh, my nose is itchy all of a sudden. Let me take a picture of this for you, Connor. I'm guessing if you just watched this video that you work with locks and keys. And to us here at CLK Supplies, that makes you a lock boss. And we want to hook you up. Here's how it works. Throughout the week, we post videos on YouTube, like the one you just watched. And all you need to do is comment on the videos and include the hashtag lockboss. When you do this, you're automatically entered in to win one of 5 free prizes that we give out each and every week. No purchase necessary. So if you're a lock boss, join us each week to learn, grow, and win.